All right, welcome, welcome. If you are new here, I am so glad you came to join us, and I hope you find this to be just a really good use of your time. If you've been here before, welcome back. If you're watching on YouTube, go to the description and grab the handout for this session so you can follow along. And the handout is also in the chat for anybody attending live. And if this kind of legal technology is helpful, make sure to comment, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more videos on legal technology talk. All right, here we go. So today, we're going to talk about the client who never calls back. And we're going to talk about something every law firm intake team has dealt with. The lead fills out the form, or they call the office, or they schedule consultation, or they talk to someone for 10 minutes and sound really interested. And then all of a sudden, nothing. They do not answer, they don't reply, they don't schedule, and they don't send the paperwork. They just disappear. And when that happens, the easy assumption is, well, they must not have been that serious. So today I want to change your perspective on how you look at prospective clients who don't call back. Because sometimes this is true that they may not have been serious. Sometimes people are shopping around or they contact five firms and go with the first one that calls them back. Sometimes they realize they're not ready, and sometimes they thought they had a bigger issue than they actually had. But really, a lot of the time, ghosted leads are not lost opportunities. They're just paused. They're overwhelmed opportunities, scared opportunities, busy opportunities. They are, I meant to call you back, but my kid got sick and then work got crazy and then I forgot the attorney's names opportunities. So today's topic is called the client who never calls back. But really, this is about building a follow up system that does not depend on perfect memory, perfect timing, and a team that magically never has interruptions because that team does not exist. Every law firm has urgent calls, current client needs, attorney questions, scheduling issues, and a team member who meant to call someone back at 2 and then suddenly it's 4:45 and they have no idea where the time went. So here's where we're going to go today. We're going to break this down into three main points. Where delays actually happen and why ghosting often starts before the client disappears. How natural automated follow-ups help your team without making the client experience feel robotic. And why drip campaigns are your lifeblood because they keep your pipeline alive, they keep your firm top of mind, and help your marketing ROI keep growing. Now, this applies to most CRMs if they can support strong automations. But I'm going to focus mostly on Lawmatics because that's what we support, and because Lawmatics is especially powerful with automations, forms, emails, SMS, tasks, pipeline stages, and practice area specific follow up. But if you use a different CRM, most of these concepts absolutely apply the same. But the tools matter, and the process matters more. If the process is messy, the software just helps you move the mess faster and make a bigger mess. If the process is thoughtful, the software helps your team look responsive, organized, and caring without forcing everyone to manually remember every tiny step. So let's go to point one. Ghosting usually starts with a delay. Most firms think ghosting starts when the lead stops answering, but a lot of the time, the real problem starts earlier. Excuse me. It starts when someone fills out a form and nobody sees it for a few hours. It starts when a voicemail comes in and everyone assumes someone else is calling them back. And it starts when a lead gets entered into your CRM, but the task is not created correctly. It starts when someone has a good first call, but the next step is not crystal clear and the expectations are not clearly set for the prospective client. From inside the firm, that delay can feel normal. The phones are ringing, the current client, but a current client is upset. That's why you're handling that instead. And someone needs a document or someone is out sick, a new matter needs to be opened. So 2 hours, 4 hours, even a business day may not feel that dramatic from the team side. But from the potential client side, especially if they're dealing with something stressful, then that delay can feel much bigger. Imagine someone reaches out about probate because their parent passed away and they have no idea what they're supposed to do next. They may be sitting at the kitchen table with papers everywhere, siblings texting them, bills showing up, and a house they do not know how to handle. If they submit a form and hear nothing, even for a little while, their brain may start filling in the blanks. That's natural human nature. We do that. They start thinking maybe they didn't get it. Maybe this firm is too busy. Maybe I should call someone else. Or imagine someone reaches out about a divorce or custody issue. They may be emotional, nervous, embarrassed, angry, scared, all the above. If they do not get a quick response, they're going to think, this is already hard and now I have to chase the law firm too. That is why fast follow up matters. Not because we're trying to pressure people, but because of responsiveness is one of the first signals of care. We are in an instant gratification society. People want to click something and see something in return. That's just how we've been wired with technology now. And this should be number one in your guidelines for delivering your firm's signature client experience. Before they know your legal strategy, before they know your process, or how good your attorneys are, they need to know whether your firm made them feel safe and taken care of. So now, fast follow up feels like care. Fast follow up is not just an operational thing. It's not just a sales thing. It's not just a marketing thing. In a law firm, fast follow up feels like care. When someone has a legal problem, there's usually some version of, I don't know what to do next. So when your firm responds quickly, even with a simple automated confirmation, it gives them some relief. It says, we got your message. You are in the right place. There is a process. You are not being ignored. If someone reaches out from your website contact form, that firm or that form should instantly fire an email or an SMS to the person and to the team. The message to the team should make it clear that the clock is ticking and that this person needs a response within your promised time frame. That way it does not get overlooked. And on the message the client receives, it should say the time frame they should hear back with. And I want to be clear, this is not a criticism of intake teams. Most intake teams are doing the absolute best they can with a day that keeps changing on them. The issue is not that your team doesn't care. The issue is that the process is too dependent on people being available at exactly the right moment. And that's not a process, that's just hope. So what the CRM should do right away. This is where your CRM should help. Whether your firm uses Lawmatics or another CRM, the system should not just be a place where names and phone numbers go to sit. It should create movement. It should be the motor that keeps things moving. And if it's not, you need to beef up your CRM or fire it. Remember, your CRM is your silent employee. If it is not doing its job, critique it, fix it, or fire it. When a new lead comes in, your system should help with a few basic things. To create or update the contact and matter accurately. That's the key word. Identify what services they asked about, notify the right person or team, create the right follow-up task and automation, send an immediate confirmation message to the prospective client, place the lead into the right pipeline or stage. This should all be automated. Start sending anything needed for next steps and expectations. You should never send an automated email without next steps and expectations. That's going to minimize the calls of people calling and saying, I haven't heard from you a while. I don't know what to do next. This doesn't sound flashy, but it's huge. And in a way, it actually is flashy because it puts you ahead of many firms that don't do this. So timeliness can be your strategic edge. In Lawmatics, a website form submission can create the lead's contact and matter, apply a practice area tag, move the matter into a pipeline stage, trigger a task for intake, send an email or an SMS, and route the person into the correct follow-up path. If someone contacts the firm about probate or estate planning or family law, they can enter the right flow for that service and everything starts. That matters because not every lead should receive the same follow-up. A probate lead and an estate planning lead may both need help, but they are in very different emotional places. A custody lead and a business formation lead are not thinking about the same things. If your follow-up sounds the same for everyone, it starts to feel really generic. Automation does not mean the experience cannot be personalized. So, a simple first message can change the experience. The first automated message does not need to be fancy, it doesn't need to be long, and it does not need to explain the entire legal process. It just needs to confirm that the person was heard and they're on your radar. For an estate planning lead, it may say something like this. Hi, thanks for reaching out to our office regarding your estate planning. We received your request, and someone from our team will follow up with you within one business day. I'm going to tell you right now that 24 hours is getting kind of long to start to reply to these. If it's 5 o'clock, I get it, reply first in the morning, but it really should be a 1 to 2 hour window of somebody um, filling out a form and getting a response from your firm that is not automated. And then you can say if there's anything you want to add, you can reply here. If this is more urgent, please give us a call. So you're giving them several paths and expectations. I would recommend adding an exact time frame and honoring it. If you can't honor it, don't put a time frame. That's going to destroy your reputation. That one message confirms the form worked. It gives the person confidence that they're in the system, and it gives the team a little breathing room while still making the firm feel responsive. But this is where some firms get nervous about automation. They think that automation means cold, robotic, impersonal communication. But automation does not have to be cold. Bad automation is cold. Generic automation is cold. Thoughtless automation is very cold. Good automation can make the client experience feel more personal because it uses the information they provided, responds quicker than a human could, and it gives them what they need when they need it. And if you're thinking personal means every communication has to be typed by hand, I would look at it different. Most people would rather know the system is working and the process and receive the right information quickly rather than wait longer for a handwritten email with typos. So think about the reminder for your annual dental cleaning. You know that reminder text is automated. You know that. We all know that. But does that make you feel less taken care of or more taken care of? And it's usually more because the system help you remember something important. When you're scheduling and they say, when do you want to schedule in 6 months? You don't know your schedule in 6 months, let alone next week. So you just give them a date and time. So that automated text makes you feel heard and taken care of. And that is what good automation can do in a law firm. Now, point two, natural automation follow-up protects the team. So let's talk about natural automated follow-ups. This is the part your intake team feels every day. The initial lead is one thing. The follow-up is where the wheels start to wobble. Someone calls the lead, they leave a voicemail, then they send an email, then maybe they send a text, then they create a task to check back tomorrow. And it's all guesswork. Tomorrow comes, but they're slammed. The task is overdue, and then they finally call again, but they do not remember exactly what was said last time. The lead still doesn't answer. Then the team wonders, how many times are we supposed to keep doing this? So they keep doing it, and now they're starting to annoy the prospective client. So the difference between helpful and annoying. This is where sometimes people ask, how much follow-up is too much? And that is fair. The answer depends on the timing, the message, the practice area, and how the person originally contacted you. But in general, a natural short-term follow-up sequence might include 3 or 4 touches across SMS and email, plus maybe one call from the team. This goal is not to chase them forever during this first follow-up sequence. The goal is to make it easy for them to reconnect while the issue is fresh. So here's an example. Someone fills out a form about a family law matter. Immediately, they get the confirmation email and maybe a text. The intake team gets a task to call them. If they do not answer, the system can send a short message later. Hi, we just tried to reach you about your family law injury. Or inquiry, not personal injury. When you have a moment, you can reply here or use this link to schedule a time. And then maybe 2 days later, just checking back. We know these situations can be a lot to deal with, and we're happy to help you figure out the next step. Give us a call and we can get this on the calendar for you. So you want to always speak from a point of expectation that they're going to do it without being pushy. And that's saying we can get this on the calendar for you instead of when you're ready, although there are places for that. But then maybe a few days later, you're going to back off a little. We do not want to keep bothering you, and we don't want to leave you hanging. So if now's not the right time, that's okay. You can reach back when you're ready, and here's the link to schedule. That feels respectful. It gives them a few chances to respond, and it takes the repetitive pressure off the team. You're going to get these ghosted leads still in the contact phase without any manual work. So if they come back, that's a gain for your firm. The important part is tone. If the message sounds pushy, it feels annoying. If the message sounds helpful, it feels like service. I always like to say, are you being a car salesman or are you really trying to help the client? I'm not saying car salesmen are bad. They just have that reputation. So I always like to use that. So I just want to tell you what this looks like in Lawmatics. And I want to walk this through from a lightly technical perspective, very high level. A lead submits a website form and chooses probate. In Lawmatics, that form submission is going to create or update a contact, create the matter or lead record, apply a probate tag if that's how you do it, or a practice area, and it's going to move the lead into the correct intake pipeline and stage. Send a confirmation email, send a text message, assign a task to the intake team if needed, and notify the right person that a new probate lead came in. That's 30 to 45 minutes of work on an intake team that just happened because they filled out a form in an automated system. If the lead answers and schedules, the team moves them forward. Maybe they go into consultation scheduled, maybe they receive a reminder and an intake form, or maybe a document request. And if the lead does not answer, the team can mark the task complete with a no response outcome, and that can trigger 2 or 3 more follow ups. Maybe an SMS after a missed call. We just tried to reach you. Here's the link to schedule. And then an SMS a few days later, just checking back in. Here's a link to schedule or give us a call. And then you're going to email a few days later. We're here when you're ready. Here's a link to schedule, or just simply give us a call. We're here for you. Or an optional final task for intake. This is going to be the final call attempt, if that's what you're choosing, or a final email or SMS. Then, if the lead still hasn't responded, the system can automatically move them out of active chasing, close that active follow up stage, place them into a proper drip campaign related to their practice area like probate. Don't send them all into the same drip campaign. This is the part that matters. The lead does not disappear. The intake team does not have to keep manually chasing them forever. The CRM keeps the door open in a more organized way. And yes, this can be done in different CRMs. The steps will look different and maybe not as automated, but the process is the same. Some platforms make it easier than others. In Lawmatics, this is exactly the type of automation that become very powerful when the workflow is mapped correctly. Automation should protect intake, not replace it. Automation should never replace your intake team. It should protect your intake team and their value. The goal is not to make the firm less human. The goal is to stop making humans manually perform every single repetitive task and step that a system can do consistently in the background to really build your signature client experience. When automation handles the routine touches, intake has more room for the real human work. They have more room to take a thoughtful call, listen carefully, build relationships, prepare someone for a consultation, enter proper file notes, and notice when a lead is urgent or complicated. And if your firm is looking at this and thinking, we know we need to do this, but we do not know how to build it, this is something we can absolutely help you with when you schedule a discovery call from our website. A lot of firms know that follow up matters. The harder part is mapping it in a way that actually fits the team, getting the CRM to mirror that, and then have the real intake process working. So, point 3, Drip campaigns are your lifeblood. We talked about this a few weeks ago, but it ties perfectly into this topic. You can go on our website under Legal Tech Academy, and there's one called Drip Campaigns. We really dived into this, but I'm just going to highlight a few things because they're one of the most underused tools in law firm intake and marketing. A lot of firms think of drip campaigns as newsletters or marketing fluff, but a good drip campaign is not fluff and it is not your newsletter. A good drip campaign keeps your pipeline active. Think of it as a second pipeline. So, first, you have the people who called and are actively being followed up with. That's the first pipeline. That's your main pipeline. But then you have a second pipeline of prospective clients who are no longer in the active chase stage, but are still being nurtured through relevant drip campaigns. It may be a closed matter, but it is not a dead relationship. The system is still working to bring them back in over a longer period of time. The short term follow up sequence is for the person who just contacted you. The drip campaign is what happens after the natural short term follow up ends and the person still hasn't responded. So at that point, you are no longer acting like they just submitted the form. You're just staying helpful and visible over time. And that matters because not every legal need moves at the same speed. Everyone with an urgent criminal defense issue or someone may need immediate action. Someone with a custody emergency may need immediate action. But someone talking about estate planning may think about it for years. Someone considering business planning may take months. Someone dealing with probate may delay because of grief, and it makes paperwork harder. So if your firm only follows up for a few days and then disappears forever, you may be losing leads that were not dead that could still come back. They just weren't ready. So drip campaigns serve two purposes. First, it keeps top of mind when the person is ready to move forward. Whoops. I don't know why it does that. Um, but it keeps you top of mind. And this, they may not schedule today, they may not schedule next week. But if your firm continues to send helpful, relevant, plain English information, no legalese, you are much more likely to be remembered when they finally decide, I'm ready to handle this. The second thing is it keeps you top of mind when someone asks that person for a recommendation. This is the part that firms forget. So let's say someone contacted your firm about estate planning, never scheduled over the next year or 2 years. They occasionally receive helpful emails from your firm about wills, trusts, beneficiaries, guardians, and how to avoid leaving a mess for the family. Then one day their coworker or their neighbor or their friend says, do you know anyone who does trusts? That person will say, actually, there's a firm that's been sending me really helpful information. I'm going to forward that to you. This is not pressure, this is visibility. And visibility matters because law firms get business from being remembered at the right moment. I think the last I heard on estate planning was there's over 600,000 estate planning firms in the US. You have to stand out. So the best drip campaigns are focused on the service that the person asked about. If someone contacted you about probate, send them probate content, or family law or estate planning. The campaign should always match that topic. And this is where a lot of firms accidentally make their follow up feel very generic. They put everyone in the same list. And there's nothing wrong with a general newsletter, but that is not the same as a service specific drip campaign. Does it take time to set these emails up? Absolutely. Once you have done it, do you have to do it again? No. It is worth the time to set it up properly. A probate drip campaign should help people understand what help happens after someone passes away, what the court process looks like, and why waiting can make things harder. Same things with estate planning and family law. You just have to be very conscious of what you're sending out because relevance is what makes the campaign feel helpful instead of spam. I guarantee you're going to get people unsubscribing from these drip campaigns if you make them generic. And every drip campaign needs a call to action every time. What is the path that they can take to reach out to your office or schedule? It doesn't mean it needs to be pushy, and it does not need to scream, hire us now, but it should give the person an easy next step. It can be as simple as reply to this email with questions, schedule a consultation when you're ready. Call our office if you want to talk through any questions. The point is simple. If your message helps them think, it should also help them act. The length of the drip campaign depends on the service. Some might last a month, 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years. With lower frequency touches, there's not one perfect length. The better question is how long do people usually think about the problem that they called about before they act, and how valuable is it for our firm to remain visible? For estate planning, a long drip campaign makes perfect sense. For probate, a 3 year drip campaign doesn't make a lot of sense. For business law, maybe less time, maybe 6 months. And they may focus on risk growth contracts and planning ahead for business law. This is where automation and strategy have to work together. You do not want messages going out just because. You want the right messages going out to the right people for the right reason in the right time frame for the service they asked about. So let's make this real. Sarah fills out a form for estate planning on a Tuesday night. She's been meaning to do it for years. Her and her spouse talked about it after their first child was born. Life happened. The child is 10 years old now. They bought a house. They have another child. Someone in the family passed away without a clear plan. And suddenly Sarah thinks, okay, we really need to do this. So she fills out the form after the kids go to bed. In a strong workflow, Sarah gets a message immediately that the message is received. The next morning, intake gets a task to call her. They call. She's in a meeting, doesn't answer. The system sends a short follow-up text. Later, she gets an email with a scheduling link. And I would actually combine those into one send. You can send an email and text at the same time. But the next day, she gets a gentle reminder. And then maybe next week, she gets one more message. We know life gets busy. If it's still something you want to take care of, here we are when you're ready. We don't want to be a nuisance. Sarah doesn't respond. In a weak system, that's where the story ends. She's forgotten. 6 months later, she finally decides to move forward. She can't remember your firm name. So she Googles a firm and she hires someone else. You were just giving her information when she really wanted to hire you, but she can't find you again. The team side matters just as much as the client side. If you build automations without considering the people who use it every day, you may create more noise instead of less. Intake does not need 50 new tasks they do not understand. And we talked about this last week and the week before. They don't need all this confusing stuff or different places to look or a pipeline stage called pending re-engagement workflow 3B-2. That means nothing. And again, Beth talked about this last week, and you can watch that on our website under the Legal Tech Academy videos. The team needs plain English. They need to know what to do when someone answers, what to do when someone doesn't answer, and what the system will handle automatically. A simple structure just looks like a new lead, attempting contact, consultation scheduled, no response, long-term follow-up. It's also called long-term nurture campaigns, hired or not a fit, and closed. Obviously, there's more to it. That's just a very general breakdown of what it can look like that your team needs to know. Your firm may use different words. That's fine. The point is that each status should mean something clear. And if a lead is in attempting contact or intake follow-up, the team knows active follow-up is happening. Now, a messy CRM creates more work. A clean CRM reduces confusion and frees up so much time. And we've done the math, and it can free up 2 to 3 months of work time for a single client service coordinator. But this is another area where we can help if you schedule a discovery call from our website. Sometimes you already have Lawmatics, but you know you're only using a fraction of it, or the automations are there, but you're not sure if the right things are triggering. Or maybe you have drip campaigns, but the content is too generic. Or maybe you have great ideas, but nobody has the time to map the process. This is exactly the type of legal technology struggle that can be fixed with the right game plan and the people who do this every day. We've worked in law firms. We know how this actually feels on the inside. So I don't want you to walk away without something you can do right today. Um, I don't want you to be saying, that sounds good, but we need to rebuild everything before we can start. You don't. The practical thing you can do today is pick one practice area and map the ghosted lead journey on paper. Do not pick the whole firm's process. Do not pick every pipeline. Pick one practice area and one stage in that practice area, maybe estate planning. And then you just choose the stage you want to fix. So maybe that's intake follow up, which is right after they called, but they haven't scheduled. Then I'm not going to go through all these questions, they're on the bottom of your handout. But ask yourself these different questions. When a lead comes in, who gets notified? What happens if they don't answer? Is the follow up consistent? Those are things you need to dial in for yourself when you're looking at this one stage to fix. You're probably going to find gaps very quickly. That's not only okay, it's good, and it's the point of this exercise. The point is not to shame the process. The point is to see it clearly and expose the gaps so you can fill them. And once you map it, circle the first obvious improvement. Maybe your first improvement is an immediate confirmation email. Maybe it's an automated task call or a three-touch no response sequence. Maybe it's cleaning up your statuses so the team knows what no response actually means because people have just been dumped in that stage. Do not try to fix everything at once. That's trying to eat the whole elephant in one bite. Fix the first leak. That is how better systems are built, one clear leak at a time. A ghosted lead is not always a dead lead. Sometimes it's a lead that just needs a softer path, needs some time, needs reminders. Maybe it's a lead that needs to see your firm a few more times before they trust you. And maybe it's a lead that will never hire you, but may refer someone else because you stayed helpful and memorable. And we've even seen it where somebody came in or called, they ghosted, but it turned out they were a financial advisor and they loved you. It's just they weren't ready to do it. And then they refer 40 people of their clients. You don't know who is who and what they can do to help your firm as well. That's why your follow up system matters so much. The first few automated touches help you respond quickly and naturally. The team's call tasks make sure real human contact still happens when you do want to incorporate a call into the sequence. I wouldn't recommend making them all calls. People don't like phone calls. I would keep them smart and in the right place. The drip campaign keeps the relationship alive over time, and the CRM ties the whole thing together so your team isn't trying to manage everything out of memory, sticky notes, and inboxes. Again, this is not about replacing people. It's about people giving people a better system. A good CRM process gives everyone more clarity. The lead gets better experience, the team gets more support, and the firm gets better visibility. And the pipeline stays alive longer and it's accurate. So let's go over these key takeaways. Ghosting starts with a delay. When someone reaches out and does not hear back instantly or quickly, it does not clearly, or they don't clearly understand the next step, they may disengage before your firm ever even gets a real chance. Next is fast follow up feels like care. A quick confirmation message that is automated can make someone feel seen, especially when they're dealing with stressful legal issues. Next is your team should not manually carry every repetitive follow up step. Calls, conversation, judgment, and empathy, that's human work. Confirmation messages, reminders, texts, follow up emails, task creation, custom task creation, and status movements can often be supported by automation. We always say, let a robot do what a robot can do, and a human do what only a human can do. Short term follow up and drip campaigns are different. Short term follow up helps reconnect with someone who just contacted the firm. This is usually 2 to 3 weeks. A drip campaign keeps your firm top of mind over an extended period of time. That can be anywhere from a month to 10 years. That's completely up to you. I do want to clarify in drip campaigns, you need to have an exit out of the automations. If you're asking them to schedule in all of these drip campaigns and they schedule, you don't want to keep sending that drip campaign. You need to have a way for the automation to exit if they schedule. Otherwise, you look really messy. Drip campaigns should absolutely match the service the person asked about. Next is every drip message needs a call to action so they have a clear and easy next step when they're ready. And then again, you can start today by mapping one ghosted lead journey. Pick one practice area, one stage in that practice area, write down what happens now, and find the first leak and fix it. If you're having trouble with that, schedule a discovery call with us. And we can absolutely talk through what is happening in your firm and where leads are falling through the cracks. All right, Miss Beth, what are your comments on this? This is a mix of a lot of different paths.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And the one mistake, I'll call it a mistake, that I see a lot of firms make is they want a drip campaign and they put a drip campaign in and they stick it in their potential client pipeline and they just keep dropping people in there. And that number just keeps growing because there's no exit from that. Your drip campaign, your long-term drip campaign should not be in your prospective client pipeline. They should be in a separate pipeline. Um, and they should be easy to identify. Are they being followed up with because um they called us and they never scheduled a meeting, or are they being followed up with because not followed up, but they're in this drip campaign because they came to a consultation and they didn't move forward? Like, what is that in particular? And they shouldn't be generic. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't start with there. It is perfectly okay to start with a generic one. Like, if you're not doing that, do something. And it's perfectly fine to be generic and hop in there with the generic and just be sending all this stuff and then add all of your different things and split people out from there and then really build that program up. It doesn't need to be perfect to start. And if you have, one giant long-term drip campaign that you're dropping everybody into, great, but then you can start dividing that out, and that'll give you some really good insights and things as well. And the other thing is that the other reason to move them out of there is you want to be looking at that as these, my potential client pipeline are people that are a real potential. They shouldn't go into that long-term drip campaign unless you've had contact with them, you've done a follow-up process of 2 to 3 weeks, and you've gotten no response. Then they go into the long-term drip campaign. The Everybody in that 2 to 3 week window should be your potential client. They shouldn't be gone. They're a potential client. Leave them there and continue to follow up with them, but don't waste a lot of time on them after they've past that. And then that allows you to keep your numbers and be able to look at actual numbers and say, yes, I do have 1,156 people that are potential clients. They've contacted us, they haven't hired us yet, they're in follow-up, they're whatever, but all of these have a really high likelihood of hiring us. And then I have 3,000 in my long-term drip campaign that are actually being followed up with. Instead of saying, "Oh, I have 4,500 in my prospective clients." That's not true. Some of them could have contacted you, and I've seen this in firms. Some of them contacted you 7 years ago. Like you haven't heard from them since then. They're not a potential. They're not in your potential client numbers. That's not realistic. So it really helps to do that and separate those things and look into that. The other thing that I wanted to say was the one thing I hear is, well, what about mailing? Because sometimes people want to stick mailing in the middle of that. And there are some firms that do a lot of stuff just in mailings. You can absolutely automate that as well, where you put your printer in your Lawmatics and you can email if you have an email to print printer. Let me clarify that. If you have an email to print printer, you can put your email into Lawmatics and you can have that emailed, the letter emailed to the printer, and it just prints it out. And when you come in, and if I did that, by the way, I would do that, have them run in the middle of the night. So when your team comes in the morning, they have a stack there, they can pull them out and send them. And if you use the window envelopes, and I know they're not very personal, but if you use the window envelopes, you can make that so that you fold it, stick it in the envelope, and send it. And you don't have to do that. There's also, if you're doing a lot of that, there is also companies that do that where you can have them just sent to those companies and they print them and stick them in an envelope and send them for you. So just so you know that there is other options. Um, the world is more and more moving away from paper and mailing. Um, I told my husband the other day, we stopped and picked up the mail, and I said, I think the political mailers are just keeping the postal service in business because that's all we get. But yeah, it's because it's moving further and further away from mailings, and so that's just the way our world is going. But there is still some use for it, and there are some firms in some areas where that's very useful. So just want to let you know that's available.
Yeah, I love that.
Okay.
And just two final quick notes is once your drip campaign ends, your contact should not stop to them. Then drop them in your newsletter. That you're going to send out every month or every quarter. Be consistent with your newsletter, and they're just always going to get that. It's always staying top of mind. And then also in your drip campaigns, we're seeing this more and more because of the society we're in, that people reading things is just, I'm not going to read all that.
Mm.
Grab your iPhone or your Android, whatever you have, set it up on your desk, and record some 15 to 30-second videos that match the email you're sending and put those videos in the email. People will watch those. I will always click a video before I start reading a really long email. You can even do this for next steps. It could have somebody saying, your next step is we need this document, this document, this document. Videos are awesome. Do not make them more than about 30 seconds unless it's an instructional video. Don't go more than a minute. People aren't going to watch it. So they need to be brief. They need to be to the point. But don't say, if you want to implement this, don't say, oh, I need to hire a videographer and professional mics. Maybe down the road you can do that. I don't know. Turn on Zoom, hit record, and just have yourself talking with an AirPod in. So you get, decent sound and use that video. They don't have to be perfect. It's about the information. So that was my last thought. So before we go into open Q&A, just a quick note for anybody watching on YouTube. We always stop the recording here and then we open it for live Q&A. We never record this so people can ask real questions and talk through real situations. So if you want to be a part of that conversation, we do this live every Friday at noon Eastern. It's free, and the link to join is in the description.